Good evening and welcome to the Monday, October 21st Carver School Committee meeting. We are going to rise to the Pledge of Allegiance, but after that, if we could follow with a moment of silence just for Juliet Mackey and her mother, Susan. With that, we will open up to any comments from the general public this evening. Seeing none, at this time, I would like to have John come up and introduce our John and Abigail Adams Scholars.
John Evans is our assistant principal.
Sorry.
Hi, good evening. Is this coming through? Yes. All right. The John and Abigail Adams Scholarship provides a tuition waiver for Massachusetts students who score advanced and proficient on math and English MCAS. The students have to score advanced in one of those two. And they also have to be in the top 25% of total scorers for all the test takers in the district for that year. Over the course of 4 years of college, that scholarship could be worth over $6,000. So all of those students whose name I mentioned are eligible to have that $6,000, up to a little bit over $6,000, depending on what school. So I will read off all of those students who have qualified, and then those of you that are here, would you mind, we're going to try to have you come up here and take a picture with the school committee. We'll probably center around Mrs. Kibbe as she is immobile, and we'll try to make it a little nice. Do you have my list? Thank you. John and Abigail Scholarship recipients for the class of 2014. Sean Anderson, Casey Arminetti, Erin Bambury, Michelle Barnes, Zachary Bender, Victoria Berry, Benjamin Bonenfant, Matthew Chasey, Rachel Coeno, Alana Dunham, Jessica Ferguson, Mary Ford, Andrew Foster, Joshua Goodman, Samantha Gouvermont, Alexandra Gomares, Catherine Hildebrandt, Rachel Lazan, Tristan Marshall, Michael Podelsky, Sam Reed, Jessica Rizzuto, Alana Rubin, Ainsley Ryan, Corinne Sherwood, Jacob Spooner, Scott Strusky, and Kerry Walsh. Those students, I believe there's 28 of them, will qualify. So maybe that will be come into play in the next few months as people start thinking about what they're going to do next fall. So if we don't mind,
Have them come up.
can we all,
Come on up.
those of you who are here, come up and we will take.
Don't be shy.
And congratulations to all of you.
Thank you. We really appreciate your parents, all they've done to help you get to this point. And we want to make sure all of your faces get on TV so that your friends and family can enjoy you. Many times they run this show on cable TV. So thank you very much for your hard work and for your parents for nurturing and helping you get to the place where you are today. Congratulations. And although the school committee really welcomes you to be here, you're welcome to leave and go home and do whatever you want to. Homework. Thank you for coming. Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Comment before I leave. Carver's a great school system. Keep it up.
Thank you. You keep sending us your wonderful children.
Good night. Thank you.
Congratulations.
With that, we will open up for comments from the EAPC. Let's see, our friends are here.
Hi, good evening, everybody.
Good evening, Don.
I would like to echo the congratulations of the committee and the administration to the students and their families. The recipients should all be very proud of this accomplishment, and I am sure they recognize that it was a team effort on the part of their family, friends, and Carver education system. It takes a lot of hard work and perseverance to receive the John and Abigail Adams Scholar Award, but I guarantee that this one test score gives us only a very small indication of their accomplishments. Many of you may not be aware, the educators across the state are implementing a new evaluation system that has been mandated by legislation. This tool has 30 pages of agreed-upon language with an appendix filled with rubrics and reporting forms. The intent is to increase communication between labor and management to improve student learning. This is a complex evaluation framework, and educators will require time to understand its components and how to implement them. And educators, I mean administration and teachers. All of us are involved, and we all agree that this is a work in progress. However, Part 2 of the legislation requires systems to pilot district-determined measures, assessments to determine the teacher's impact on student learning. The EAPC maintains that a specific test can never measure the entire impact that the Carver education system has on that whole child. The educators of Carver will continue to do everything within their power to educate your children in not only the academic areas, but also in acceptance of oneself and others, the ability to listen and respond appropriately, and above all, to work as a team. Given recent events in our government, perhaps some legislators need to go back to school to learn these lessons. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. The student government are going to be late because of games, et cetera. When they come in,
Sure.
I told them that we just recognize.
Absolutely. Absolutely. With that, then we'll move on to the approval of the minutes for September 9th, regular session, as well as the October 8th special session minutes. Hopefully everybody's had a chance to look those over.
I can make a motion for the, to approve the regular session minutes from September 9th.
We have a motion. Do we have a second? We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
And I abstained because I wasn't here.
We have an abstention.
And I don't know if we can vote on the,
Do we not have a
yeah, because it was you, me, and James isn't here, so do we need to vote on that next
3 is a
time?
quorum too?
No, for the executive session, you can go ahead and vote on
That's
those.
okay?
Well,
Because
that's
we were
just a
only
special
3.
session, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so I would like
Special
to
session, not
make a
special.
motion to approve the special session meeting minutes from Tuesday, October 8th as written.
I second that. Any discussion?
Clearly, we're both in favor.
Seeing none, all those in favor? Aye. Everyone else is
I'm
abstained.
abstaining, yep.
Yes.
The special session was to approve a field trip for Lauren Shardy, who is just returning from a wonderful experience in Washington, D.C. We'll invite her next time. She got to sing
Absolutely.
at the start of the Best Buddies Road Rally on the mall in Washington.
Great
So-
honor for one of our students, and we're excited to honor her next time. Absolutely. With that, we'll move on to communication.
Yes, each year, the High School Environmental Club and this year they joined with the Honor Society, did an coastal sweep, and there's some information about the different things they work with to clean up the coast. They've been doing this for many years, and we really appreciate all the hard work that the Honor Society, Jeff Mellon, and the Environmental Club advisor, Dave Wechter, does to put this together. It was really a wonderful weekend event. So thank you all for going. Then again, there were also Best Buddies involved in that event. So, and luckily we have a Best Buddy member here, Tammy Johnson. So it was a big combined effort. So we really thank them for their wonderful work. The second announcement, you all get them in the mail, but just to make you aware that the joint conference of school committees and superintendents is coming up in November. Lance has told me he's going to go, and I will go also, and anyone else who is available to go any one of the days, please just let Emery know if you want to go, and we'll get you registered.
Yeah, I would encourage. I know our schedules are challenging and work's hard to get out of, but I've gone the last couple of years and really had an opportunity to get some great information out of it. It's great to meet with your peers, talk with other towns, see how they do things, get some great ideas, good sharing time, and some great speakers from the national level. So if you can make it, I'd love to see you there.
You ready for the next part, for the reports from the superintendent? Lance asked me about when we'd hear from the MCAS scores, and we will do it in November. All of the retests and everything are back from the fall, and will be completely informed in November. So, and the principal, Scott said an ESC evaluation, and I always like to have the principals here when we review them. So
Absolutely.
he's done a Dennis Sharman. So we will hear about MCAS next time, but right now we're going to proceed with getting an update on our technology. We have, working with the company LCN that we worked with in 2007 to realign our network services to make them more productive. And now they're helping us upgrade them so that we can have a bring your own device environment and to use many electronic devices in the educational venues in our school, from the library into the computer rooms, but also in the classrooms. And Meredith will tell you all about it.
Welcome, Aaron.
So thank you very much, and I look forward to MCAS next month too. But today, to talk about technology updates, as Superintendent Sorrell mentioned, we are in the process of working with an outside vendor to try to fortify our infrastructure and support what will end up becoming something called a BYOD environment, emphasis on the D. And BYOD does stand for Bring Your Own Device, and what it will basically do is allow Carver to respond to changing practices in education and changing practices in how we all operate with the advent of smartphones and tablets and mobile devices, and allow us to remain current or competitive compared to other districts who have already gone this route, and allow students who bring their smartphones in, or staff who might have an iPad or a tablet, to be able to access the internet. And as much as it's nice to see the visibility of those things within the classroom being used for educational experiences, the very first step is invisible to mostly everyone, myself at times included, and that has to do with all of the access points that are put in throughout the district. And Liz is pointing to a little tag in the ceiling where that has been marked. But basically, for the infrastructure, LCN has come in and they went through and audited our system as it stood, and then figured out how to fortify the infrastructure and to incorporate best practices in that kind of back-end engineering to make sure that we would be able to support these loads. So I sent back just a quick technology update sheet, and I'm going to run through these bulleted points for our viewers at home to make sure that to make sure that I cover everything. It's just one page. But basically with the technology updates, we're looking at it through three different projects, or three different lenses. So the first is to do the infrastructure piece that I was just mentioning, and then to look at how this relates to the acquisition of equipment, and then how that relates to assessment, because that's a huge driving motivator in a lot of this work. And then the last of the three areas to look at is support and professional development. So in terms of infrastructure, the idea was to strengthen that engineering on the back end so that we would be able to gather data about where we were, improve our plan design, implement those wireless access points, and then make sure that it's all managed effectively. We also wanted to increase the wireless capacity so that as people came in with smartphones or tablets, that we would be able to handle that demand, and that administrators and teachers would kind of have first right as far as access. So if they're using it in the classroom to support instruction, that they would be able to kind of have a bigger chunk of the bandwidth pie, and then as students came in, that they would get maybe a smaller piece of the pie, and we would have the ability to do something called authentication policies. And basically what that does is, as a user comes on and brings in their smartphone, it allows them to sign in, but also requires them to abide by all of our firewalls and our filtering. So anything that they couldn't get on to as far as a website goes or an app goes in our iPad carts or in our computer lab, likewise, they can't do that on a smartphone. So they will not have carte blanche to go anywhere that they want to on the internet. It's also to increase the bandwidth capabilities and maximize the efficiency of our network so that at different times we can give more pieces of that pie to whatever user group is using it. So to make that a little more simplistic, obviously administrators and teachers are going to need a fair amount of bandwidth during the day, but perhaps later on in the afternoon, maybe we can decrease that load and then increase what guest users can use. So if parents are coming in to meet with teachers for parent-teacher conferences, or maybe there is drama practice after school and they need to be able to access that, we can manage that in a way that is very much built around the industry standard and how other districts are doing that same type of management. If we move on to assessment and equipment, we've talked a little bit about changes in assessment and how with the Massachusetts 2011 frameworks of standard that MCAS will be going away, and the park assessment, as far as we know, will be coming. And that is a computerized assessment, which will allow for a variety of things, one of which is to get those reports back quicker, so we won't have to wait until the November school committee meeting to hear about data, but we'll have more timely data in which to inform instruction and to steer school and district improvement. But there are lots of requirements around how the park should be administered. And because it's going to require either a tablet-based solution or a computer-based solution, we needed to make sure that we were equipped to handle that. So the state has given us a lot of guidance, and park itself as an entity through the Achieve organization has given us guidelines that we've been responding to and trying to make sure that we will be ready for these assessments, which we'll be piloting this spring. So the other piece is we want to make sure that we have seamless accessibility to the new educator evaluation system, and that includes a secure portal by which teachers can be able to put their online digital portfolio. And then the last piece is we want to make sure that we are cost efficient, and we're finding low-cost software solutions that are effective and allow us to implement 21st century best practice. So I talked also about the need for support and professional development. Along with this company, there's been several knowledge transfer sessions, and it sounds very exciting, knowledge transfer, but it's really a bunch of people sitting around the table and talking about what it is that they've done and then how we can maximize our operations. When I hear knowledge transfer, I always picture people pouring things into my brain, but it's all metaphorical. And then we've also been thinking about how to best support the needs at the middle high school. We run something called a help desk operation, which is very common among schools, and we've decided to add a student portion to that. So rather than having our techs trying to run around and do everything, we have now been able to identify students, and today was the very first day, where they will be working with one of our techs around providing some in-time support to educators, things like helping out with projectors and troubleshooting with computer labs and making sure that everything is all set for the next class coming in, and to be able to obtain some tech skills as well, so when they go out into that career or into college, that they'll have some of those skills under their belt. And then next week we'll be offering a training through Apple on iPads. So we were able, through a volume discount purchase plan, to obtain 180 iPads. These iPads will help supplement the computers that we have so that we will be able to administer the park assessment. And the purpose of this training will be to allow teachers to see what apps and different experiences exist on the iPad to allow for best practice instruction. And then we'll continue with iPad training. Department chairs will be attending an iPad summit in November, and we'll come back and help teach workshops for teachers during the January early release day. And then we will continue to offer professional development and in-kind support around the new educator evaluation system and that software. So with that stated, does anyone have any questions?
To the committee, we'll open it up.
I'm just wondering, excuse me, where we stand in relation to other districts? Because I do, working with other people, you hear, oh, my school everyone has iPads, et cetera. So where do we stand?
This is a great start. So that's kind of a tough question to answer just because there are some districts that for a couple of years have gone to one-to-one scenarios where every child gets an iPad. And the funding structure around that can be moderately controversial. So in some cases, schools that can afford that will buy an iPad for everybody. In other cases, they'll have parents lease them. One of my friends was telling me that for her children, that they're just required to buy it. So instead of buying, back to school items and that sort of thing, they just have to buy an iPad. And those get rolled out differently. So I would say that if you look at the continuum, that we're working towards being kind of in the middle. And with this first deployment of 180 iPads, we're excited about ramping up professional development around how to use them. And a lot of students and teachers already own smart devices and tablets, but it's really operationalizing them in the classroom to support instruction.
The other thing I'd like to mention is there are some recommendations which we took to heart from the Department of Education, is that in a school environment where we have 6 through 12 students, that it's recommended that we have at least one device for 2 full classes, as in all the 9th graders and all the 10th graders. So counting our computer labs and our iPads, we now have enough for 2 full classes of students to use them simultaneously or in excess of 300 students. So
just for clarity's sake, these will be ones that the school will have for classes to use, but they remain at the school, or they
yes.
go, yes?
Yes, right now.
Because I know there's various, as Meredith shared, there's done various ways. So these are not person-specific. They're to be used as the community.
The way that the educators in the building decided to distribute them was by department. And that the English department, fine arts department, the math department has a cart, and there's a classroom set in that cart, and it's a very fast charger. So, but it doesn't mean that if every science teacher wanted to use them on the same day, they can't take all the carts, because we'll have a sign up. We are going to roll them out as we can. And then students, you can do an amazing amount of things with just your phone too. So students now will be able to use their phones in a productive way. We aren't just quite ready financially to go to the one-to-one, but the bring your own device environment will also support a one-to-one environment. The technology infrastructure was a huge leap for Carver. And it will be available in both the middle high school and the elementary school, where you can walk from room to room and there will be no barriers to you accessing the internet or the intranet where people can email each other. And there's lots to plan for. So, how do we let the students print from these iPads? How do you arrange for that? So there are a lot of decisions being made, and frankly, I just never dreamed we would get this far as we have, and so I'm very grateful for the town who passed the warrant article that allowed us to begin the journey, and we'll need to continue the journey next year because the elementary school didn't get any of this equipment. They got the infrastructure, but not the equipment.
So and just to help, I think, clarify, I know we use strengthen and improve, but it's already done. We have improved.
Yes. And
so even though we use them in the we're going to do sense here, these are done. So just the community understands the money that was voted on, we've used.
It will go live the week of Veterans Day.
Nice.
We were hoping to get it kicked off on October 1st, but it's we have old buildings and they encountered some structural issues, and we worked around those, and so we're very excited to go live at the middle high school, and then the elementary school has been wired. Ruby had to send them home one day because they were trying to work in the classroom where kids were, because they had the days off a little bit, They don't work on our school schedule, but it's all completely ready. We just need to roll it out. I think by the first of the year, everybody will be up and rolling.
And sounds like from the conversation we've had with the park people that are helping us that tablet versus computer, that they were okay with us using tablet.
Yep, so one of the recommendations of that is tablets were fine as long as we purchased a keyboard to go with it, and we were able to do that. Apple created or worked with a vendor that has distributed kind of cost-effective, kid-proof keyboards, we hope.
In cases.
Yeah, and cases, yeah, so.
Great.
And just by luck, we were chosen to pilot the online park.
Even better.
So, and the company that I'd say 40% of the state was chosen to pilot, but not all of them are doing the online version. Some are doing paper and pencil versions. They're going to charge you to take a paper and pencil test because, of course, it's going to
The process.
process it. But the park testing, our company, LCN, will be on site the days of the pilot, and we'll make sure if there's any overuse of the bandwidth that they can redirect it. So they are going to learn from this as well, but they're very excited to be able to work with us on those days to make sure that it's as seamless as possible.
Great. Paula?
Yeah, I just have one question about, I know Liz, you are, and Meredith, you too, I think, since you've been here, you guys are just amazing at writing grants and getting grants to help fund the things that we don't have money for in our district. Have we looked into, beyond grants, like any kind of private donations or programs with any, corporate sponsorships or anything to get more iPads and computers in?
So I'll say something up to this corporate sponsorship. We have taken donations from companies who they usually replace their computers every 2 years, and then they wipe them clean and they'll give them to schools. The problem with these are so specific on what can and cannot be on these computers that are used for testing so they aren't slowed down, that right now the tablets are the much more economical way to go because it takes so much human power to put those computers into a shape that we can use them directly. So for regular old computer labs that kids are going to learn to use software, it's a really good solution. But for this, until we figure out all the complexities of the test, I don't think right now that's a really good solution. But we will continue to accept donations from, companies for teaching our keyboarding classes in the elementary school and things like that.
Well, even to your point, whether it's Apple or IBM, some of those companies that produce the product, they must have foundations and things that potentially do donations, I'm guessing. So.
The problem is the whole
Everybody's
country
looking for it, sure.
is looking for it. So it's. I think we're going to ask for another warrant article this spring so that elementary school will have enough devices for the testing environment and for using it in class. Because if you don't let them use them before they take the test, they won't know how. So I think we will. With another warrant article, that Carver will be up to speed, and we won't have too much to worry about. It's the replacement value over time that is going to be the challenge. But the whole country is gone to one test or the other. There's two main tests. So Smarter Balance is one test, the Park is the other. So everybody's competing for the same resources. Meredith?
And ditto. That's what I was going to say, is just that grant opportunities around tech acquisition have really dried up because it's a requirement now.
Well, I think on our end, as we continue to look year after year at our budget and our plan, I think IT is going to have to bump up each year because, as you said, as we put this infrastructure in place and as education continues to change using these devices, that's going to be we need to plan ahead so that we're in a position each year either to replace or add or wherever we need to be, because that's where things are headed.
Well, I don't think any one of us, and I'm much older than the rest of you, would have imagined the technology that we have at our disposal, and they're already talking about the next iPad 5 or whatever, and what's it going to, the features, and the problem is it's changing so fast. It's very hard We went with the iPad 3. We could have gotten the 2 cheaper, but what they usually do is the apps that go on them are no longer work on the 3, you know. So, you sort of caught, but after we purchased the 3, then out came the 4. So you're always in a race that you can never catch up, but we're trying.
That's good.
I have a 2 and it works just fine for me, so.
Any other questions for
Can I just say one last thing? I think everyone in the room probably feels this way, but just so the whole public knows too. I mean, this is not something that's nice to have. This is something that we need if our kids are going to keep pace with all the other kids around the state, let alone the country and the world. So, I mean, I appreciate what the administration does in finding that balance of the best technology for the best price. I always get the sense and the proof too. I see the proof's in the pudding, but I see that you don't just buy things to buy things. You definitely research it and find the best price, which I really appreciate from the taxpayer's perspective too. So thank you very much.
And Patrick was a big help with all of this too. I see our kids are.
Yes.
Pleasure, always my pleasure.
Before we move on to the superintendent's next item, we will welcome up our student council.
Trista wasn't able to come with me today. He had his MASC officer shop, so he was a little tired from that, I guess. But there's kind of a lot to talk about. We have past events and our upcoming events for Student Council. I guess for our past events, we'll start with Crusader Fest, which was on September 11th. No, not 11th. Wow. 27th. This year, I think Student Council had one of the best turnouts, in my opinion. We bring new events in, such as like a dunk tank we've never done before, as well as a costume contest which the elementary school kids participated in, and it was a lot of fun. It was good to see them dressed up. I don't know who won, but it was good to see everyone come together like that. Next was Homecoming Pep Rally, which was October 4th. It was based on school spirit and school pride, which also, within my 4 years of high school, I honestly have never seen so much cranberry. So that was a great feeling in the bleachers and everything. We had different activities like contests and whatever. Mr. Cheska threw in a lovely competition between the court and everyone on the court, so that was new as well. Then next was the Stuco Officer Shop at Holy Cross, which was today. That was all but one of our officers went. Some of them never have gone before, so it was good to get them exposed to that and everything. We brought back a lot of new information, a lot of new ideas, which was probably one of the most beneficial parts about it. We're looking forward to working actually with Best Buddies in different events. I'm personally hoping to go to the bocce tournament in Greenfield to work on our excellence books for Student Council. So we'll hopefully get some points for that. And then on to our upcoming events. The senior class, during Homecoming Pep Rally, we had a class color competition. No, not a class, school spirit color competition, and the teachers voted for it, and I guess the senior class won. So we're gonna have an ice cream party for them, just a little, keep people having spirit in the school. That'll be on this Wednesday. It was a pretty close call between everyone, but we had like teachers vote, and I feel like there was a little bias, but I didn't have anything to do with it, just because I'm a senior, but anyway. Next one is the Halloween costume dress up on the 31st. In past years, we've done it for Cystic Fibrosis Foundation. We donated all the money that we made. I think it's either $1 or $2 we do every year for people don't have to dress up, they can just donate, but if they do dress up, they have to pay $1 or $2, I forget exactly. But this year we're gonna do it for breast cancer, just because to get aware with it, especially like in our school this year. We figured that would kind of bring everyone a little bit closer with everything, get a little bit more people involved. I'm hoping to make little ribbons for people to wear, but I'm not sure how many I'll need. So the middle school will be joining us as well in that, so everyone can wear their costumes, obviously, school appropriate, but no masks and everything. And then a brand new event we're starting is called Mr. Crusader. Details are still in the running, kind of like seeing where we're going with it and whatnot, but the basic idea about it is to have a competition between 12 guys in all the grade levels and have it just be like a fun thing. Admission would be a fundraiser, would cost a few dollars, or we're going to do a can drive during it. Like your admission could be you bring in a can of beans or something instead of paying for admission. But more details will be about that. It's going to be in December, so we have time. Not a lot, but that's it. Thank you.
Great. Thank you.
I appreciate it.
Thank you for coming and the great use of technology.
Yeah. How appropriate.
Yeah, you guys are talking.
Good job.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
With that, we'll move on to the enrollment report.
Yes, so October 1 is our official enrollment for funding and all kinds of things that the Department of Education asks us for. And you can see Anne-Marie puts together a really nice comprehensive sheet. And our total enrollment, it's on the second sheet there, you have it, 1,724 students. And then I thought it was interesting, I was looking at the Massachusetts School Building Enrollment projection from 2009. And if you look across, the total enrollment was supposed to be 1,726. So they really were completely accurate over the past, since 2009. But it's called a cohort survival. So they take all the students that are currently in school and every year they move them up. So that makes sense. But the tricky one is how many children enter kindergarten. And what they do is they collect what's called the live birth data from 5 years before. And then they look at the average number of students who enrolled for the past 5 years compared to the birth rate. So in Carver, it ranges from about 84% of the children born in Carver stay in Carver to 135%. So, more students move in. So what they do is they average that out over a 5-year period, and each year add another year and add the average, and then they predict, Tammy gets what I'm doing. Then they add that on. So it's unusual in my experience for it to be so accurate, but it has been very accurate. So I thought that was an interesting.
So it looks like an increase is coming.
Yes, it is. And we have,
Goodness.
one of the PTO members said to me the other day, she says, I don't know anything, but she says, like every single person I know has a 2-year-old. So she said, it's just going to be a very big class. And, that she knows that from Captain Pals and dance classes and all that kind of thing. So she's right. I mean, then I look down here and I go, yeah, that would be, probably 2016. So it's slowly creeping up on this again. So it's a scientific method, and I just thought it was interesting that it came in. Then we are required to report, they call these the superintendent's reports, but actually Anne-Marie does this one, is every private, charter, and agriculture vocational school is required to send us the enrollment of the students from Carver who enroll there, which, by the way, not all of them do. And we find it out accidentally. We had a student in a private parochial school who injured himself and had to be in a wheelchair, and they didn't have any way of working with that student. So they said, well, go back to your home district. We didn't even know the child lived in Carver. So it's not a perfect system.
So even though they're required to tell us, they don't know themselves, or they don't tell us?
The schools,
know.
the schools, you know, these little religious schools don't always know all the state rules. You know, they're doing the best they can. But, so we broke it out for you that the number of children enrolled in religious schools is 56, in charter schools is 12, in purely private schools that aren't religious schools, 4. There's something called the Greenfield Virtual Academy. It's an online school, and we have 4. We even have a kindergartner there. And vocational and agriculture is our biggest number, of course, 101. School choice, we have 1 child that chose to go out, but we have 19 or 20 that are here with us. And then homeschoolers, we have 35. So a total of 213 additional children live in Carver that do not attend, currently do not attend our schools. So that is, that's all she wrote about in
Try not to
public.
keep it active.
Yeah, no, with that, comments from the committee on this topic.
I just thought when you threw that last number in, 1 chose to leave us and 19 came to join us. What does that say? Does that say anything about us, or?
I think we're a very popular place for people. I get calls at least once a month, sometimes several times a month. Are you going to offer school choice this year? Can you offer it for 9th grade? You know, we have decided that the best thing for us is to decide for kindergarten, and then you keep them going forward. But this is something we can plan for versus dropping children in the middle of their educational careers. It does say something about us. The 1 child that's placed out, her mother teaches in that district. So, you know, it's just convenient for that family to take their child there, you know. So I do think it says something about us. We have a lot of people that don't actually live here who want to go to school here, and that's a hard one for me. I spent a lot of time on that.
Any other comments before we move on? All righty, we shall move on to personnel updates.
Yes, we have new hires. Susan Callio-Benson is a kindergarten para. Megan Robinson is a special education para. Holly Hoffman's our new food service worker. And we had a resignation of speech pathologist and a special ed para and a food service worker. All of them found, well, Dawn Walsh, we know Dawn, Kevin's wife, she went to work with her husband in his company, so most of them just went to other jobs. So
Sounds good. Well, welcome to all those that have joined us.
and we thank them for their service here.
Yes, absolutely.
So now we go to Patrick.
Okay. I'd like to first talk about the FY14 budget adjustments that we do. Right around this time of year, every year, we look back to our original budget, and then we make some adjustments as to what our assumptions were way back when we made the original budget, and then to come down to, and what is reality. I mean, who really got hired, how much did they make, how many retirements did we have? And basically we look at really two big things. We look at the salaries, and then we look at the benefit areas. And those are the two where you're going to see the largest numbers. But it really comes down to the point of, you know, what did we assume, and then what did finally take place. And sometimes there's quite a bit of difference, but there's also issues such as, I mean, we just talked about school choice. We had more school choice money this year than we had before, so we were able to reduce some of these numbers. The original budget did not contemplate the number of retirements, the new teachers, the additional health insurance, and the additional retirement costs. Salary differences being a lot to do with retirees being replaced by lower cost new teachers. We can have somebody who's been here many, many years at the top step be replaced by a newer person, and sometimes that alone can make a difference of $35,000 or $40,000. So, and we had a lot of retirees. And reclassifying some things. Again, in our little housework, we find that sometimes we may have somebody in a wrong line item or something, so we do move them around and get them corrected. We had some additional technology expenditures at the end of the year. We talked a lot about technology tonight, and that would be to complement our article. We had additional retirement from Plymouth County. I just want to give a couple of figures here. Our non-teaching staff contributes to Plymouth County, 50% by the employee and 50% by the employer. That has been going up pretty dramatically over the past few years, but this year in particular, I had originally, it was almost $600,000 line item, and I had increased it by 10%, which was $60,000. And then the reality of it, when I got the numbers from Town Hall, we had to increase it another 40. So that was just a retirement line item that went up $100,000. Our health insurance plan went up for a couple of reasons. We were offsetting our cost of health insurance by what was called the Ed Jobs Grant. The Ed Jobs Grant was part of federal grants that came through a few years ago. And we had, our Ed Jobs Grant was for $600,000, or almost $600,000. And what we were very strategic about it, and we got a great benefit out of it. And what we did was pay the health insurance expenses of employees, of teaching employees, not all of it, but part of it. And we got 3 years out of it. So we had 3 years of reduced cost in our health insurance line item. And last year was the end of it. We had $150,000 last year, and this year we have $0. So even though we made some improvements in our health insurance options as far as bringing some premiums down, that is offset by the fact that we were subsidizing it with a grant that we no longer have, and the fact that we have 14 more people on the rolls in insurance this year than last year. We had a lot of retirees, and when the retirees go from the active to the retirement plan, we still have them. We just put them in a different account. And then when we hire new people to come along and replace the retirees, they typically, most of them, take a health insurance plan. And so it's nice when, in one respect, we have a lot of retirees and we can recapture some costs, but at the same time, we absorb more costs, oftentimes on the benefit side. So we've got some increases and decreases there. And then what we finally did was, as I'm going kind of down the line here at the bottom, we reduced some sped tuition costs and made that up with circuit breaker funds. So again, this is just what I call a housekeeping that we do every year. We get things, we wait until about the October timeframe when all the hiring is done and we know exactly where we're going to be. So what we do is we plot all the salaries exactly where they're supposed to be. We put all the benefits where they're supposed to be, and then we rearrange so some other numbers, and the bottom line doesn't change. Bottom line stays the same. So if there are any questions on that, I could answer them now, or if there are more detail, I could come back with answers to the committee.
Any comments or questions for Pat from the committee?
Okay, good, thank you. And now
Thank you, Pat.
I'm going to just speak to one other item with our facilities update. And as you can see from the agenda, which I'll get to.
Maybe some elevator issues?
I think it says the elevator's not working, but as of 11 o'clock today, the elevator is working. So we got that done today. But what I want to talk about is to go back to a few things. In the back building, the EKW building, we've got a defective door solenoid on the main entrance door, and that's what's preventing that door from working the way it should be all the time. That is a hardware item, and that's scheduled to be replaced this week. It's an electronic component, but it's actually part of the hardware. When we put the security system in, we had two vendors. We had the door vendor, which is the hardware vendor, and then we had the electronics vendor, which is the actual software and computerized part of the system. This was with the door vendor. We're also going to be replacing another door in the pre-K classroom, and that door is coming in about 10 days. The door manufacturers are really backed up because everyone, many around the country are doing the same thing with doors and security entrances and so forth. So it's not that anybody's dragging their feet or whatever, they're just overloaded. And they will be with us in about 10 days. And again, in the back area, the DPW was able to remove the remaining trees that were down around the property and the playground area. And we always thank them for being cooperative and helping us out, because they do a great job, and they help us out a lot whenever they can, and basically whenever we ask them to. In the front building, main elevator was down for about a week and a half. Reported non-functioning on October 10th. Our elevator contractor responded. They had to get some parts, which aren't exactly that accessible due to the age of the equipment. So we finally found the parts, and as of 11 o'clock this morning, the elevator was back in operation. So we're glad to see that.
It's key, because we have several handicapped children, and occasionally kids break limbs and whatnot, and they have to,
Right.
we were having to severely modify their education to get them.
That's great.
So it's really, it's kind of scary, because the
Well,
elevator is 1992.
I was going to say, is this something that we need to be starting to investigate as far as investment into replacement? Well, clearly, again, this all falls into the new facility. But
It is
again,
the-
another issue I guess the community needs to kind of keep on the burner is the longer we continue this process, the more these large items are going to fall and break, and we're going to need to address.
And they're serviced regularly as required by law.
Oh, yeah.
You know.
Serviced and inspected on a yearly basis. But it's also the elevator in the front building was an add-on. It's not original to the 1950s structure. It was right around the 1990-92 era when that was put in. And so it's not as old as the building, but it's still, in and of itself, 20-plus years old.
Sure.
So the parts were a little bit difficult to get, but they finally got them, and they got it going. And then
And the one in this building broke as well. We had to have,
Yep.
they had to fix
Yeah,
this.
and we had to do that one too. And the boilers were started for the first time of the season last week. No problems. They're fully inspected every summer by both our vendor, our contractor, and the insurance company. We have to have a certificate from the insurance company to run the boilers. Up at the middle high school, we've got, again, we're waiting for some doors, the new front doors to the main offices with New England door, and we're, again, about 10 days away from that. Once the doors are installed, we can have the access control vendor, which is Lantel, return to wire them up and then finish the punch list of items. So that's about 10 days away. And we're also working with them to implement a new badging access control ID system. We're looking at, again, we've got a little bit of money left with our article. And what we're looking at are district-wide picture IDs, which can also serve as the access swipe to the security system. So that's going to be our next step.
Is that your swipe card? Tina? So we just affixed buttons that allow you access onto our previous swipe cards. Now the proximity, you just show it to them. No, I just want to show what we're talking about. But eventually people will get a picture ID, so it'll be a double form of security, now our assistant principal at the middle school goes to pick up her child who's enrolled in our kindergarten, so they would know who she was. So and then we'd be able to make temporary from driver's license photo IDs.
Okay, and again, too, up at the high school, the heating system was started up, and those boilers are also
Today, this morning.
Operational. What's that?
Dave said this morning he stopped.
No, those were done this morning. So
Yeah.
yeah, we did that. Those were about a week later than the elementary school. So that went off without a hitch too. And that will do it for me, unless there's any questions.
I got a quick question.
Barry?
On that door, the elementary school door with the solenoid, is that, so
Yes.
that's not extra cost, right? Because it's a new door,
It's a new
So they
door
must have screwed up?
with a defective part.
so they're covering
Yes.
that?
Yes, they are.
Beautiful. And then that pre-K door, is that an interior door?
Exterior.
Exterior
It's an
door?
exterior door
Okay.
by the preschool, yes.
Okay.
So they can get in and out.
Okay.
We've changed the parent pickup to be at the front door because there's no security door there for people. So now the parents pick up going through the double security doors, but they still go out to their little playground. And so we just need a better secure locking door there. So we're replacing that door for the preschool
Great, thank
to
you.
go out to their playground.
Any other facility questions before we move on?
Okay,
All right.
I'm all set.
Thank you, Pat.
Okay, so next, we have formed a bullying task force, and another one of the new changes in legislation that the legislature passed on the last day of June, and it became effective on the first day of July. And so, but we're required, and we're happy to update our bullying prevention and intervention plan, and then eventually you'll have a new policy that will come before us after they have the model plan out, and they're going to put out a model policy for school committee meetings, and we'll have a policy subcommittee meeting. But this is all retroactive to something that's already in place. So Mr. Evans has very happily agreed to chair this policy revision townwide committee, and I invite him to talk to us about it.
Thank you.
Back.
So, as the superintendent said, periodically we are required to revise our bullying prevention and intervention plan. And we gather a group of people together from as many parts of the community as we can find to try to go through that process. And this seemed like a good time to do it, since there was a change in the legislation that altered the definitions of bullying, and so we needed to really get those definitions into our plan, and that's the process we're involved in. We met on October 9th. We had a large group, I think 22 people. I'm just going to mention all the people that were at that meeting, just to give people a sense of the different people the different perspectives from which some of these things are coming from, and also to thank those people for being there. The Chief of Police, Mark Dufilli, was present, the superintendent, special education teacher Deb Pamela from the elementary school, adjustment counselor from the elementary school, Mary Langner, the psychologist from the elementary school, Lisa Hines, associate principals from the elementary school, Paula Foley and Emma Furtado, parents, Joyce Macrina and Jen Santagate, adjustment counselor from the middle high school, Sean Sullivan, guidance counselor from the middle high school, Tricia Winslow, the middle high school psychologist, Melissa Leary, Melissa Strelke, an English teacher from the middle high school, Jasvir McIntosh, Douglas Fees, and Tammy Johnson, math teachers from the middle high school, Jackie Perkins, a parent and community member and English teacher at the middle high school. Myself, Lily Campbell, a student from the middle high school. Bailey Magno, a student from the middle high school. Lance Kennedy, thank you for coming. And Donna Ramsey, from the Education Association of Plymouth and Carver. So that was the group, and we also had one more special guest, Rebecca Bryant from the law firm Stoneman, Chandler and Miller, and she really opened up our process. So let me just tell you a little bit about what the process was like that night. What we started with was really a presentation from Rebecca Bryant, and she worked through the law. She gave an explanation of the law, tried to give her best representation of some of the motivations behind the law and some of the recent changes, and then really let people ask some questions. So for maybe half that meeting was really a nice question and answer session, so that everybody in the room could sort of have some of their just questions about the general law itself, even before these changes, answered. And she did an excellent job, and I think people felt pretty comfortable with their understanding of things. We then reviewed the current bullying prevention and intervention plan and compared it to the new state model. So we have a plan that exists. The people in our task force had a copy of our plan, and then they had a copy of a new state model. And the new state model basically is new because it now has this new definition of bullying, and some of the language changed in each area of the plan. People then compared our current plan to the new model to see what language might be missing, to see how they feel that new language could be best incorporated into the plan that we have. On paper, groups got together, different groups for different parts of the plan, and basically had a note taker. They had discussion. They documented all of their thoughts and all of their considerations in terms of how they felt the language would work in. Some people had questions. Some people had things that they felt were unique situations that they weren't sure the plan covered. So all of those things were collected. I collected all of that paperwork. I have all that paperwork. At the next meeting, we'll present a draft of some revisions based on that paperwork, and then hopefully
We'll put it up for public comment.
and we'll put it out for public comment. I should say, the draft is going to include some of the changes, but they're also going to be filtered through the lens of Rebecca Bryant, who is the legal expert, so can take the language that we might have suggested and write it in a way that's sound legally. And so that will be presented. The group will have an opportunity to sort of vet all of those changes and discuss them. And hopefully, after that, and a period of time for public comment, we'll be presenting that plan to this group, maybe in December,
Yeah.
right? And our next meeting is November 13th, so we hope to be ready after that meeting to come back here. That is the process as it stands.
Great.
Any questions?
Questions from the committee? I do just want to commend your efforts. I had a chance to get there. I had another meeting. I did leave early, but as you, I was impressed at just the great group that was there, the broad spectrum of people involved, and there are some challenges, I think, as we look at bullying in schools and the law and the new definition and how broad it is and how challenging it can be for an educator, I think. So I think it's something important to look at as a district, and I commend your efforts and look forward to seeing that.
I think I think I may have said this at the meeting, but I just think that the process for us is a good one. It does require some work, and this particular legislation requires a lot of paperwork in terms of documenting the things that happen in school. But at the same time, I think it has brought to the consciousness of people in education a certain awareness of what kids go through and remembering different situations when they were younger, and it's something that's now in the back of everyone's mind, and I think it's a good thing. I think that people are responding to those things. I mean, the legislation, it is doing what it was intended to do, in my opinion.
Thank you, John.
Thank you.
Thank you, John. Thanks for coming tonight.
Oh, no problem. I'm going to leave now.
Yes,
Thanks, John.
thank
John.
you.
With that, we move on to recommendations.
Yes, and we have a lot of field trips. I'll list them, and grade 7, this is a yearly trip. They go to the Trinity Repertory Theater in Providence, Rhode Island on December 11th. Grade 8 has a one-day trip. They leave what I consider the middle of the night and come back very late to do New York City in one day. And that, again, is December 13th. This trip has happened before, the Quebec City Carnival Canada trip run by our class advisor and French teacher, Julie Jor.
We saw some good pictures, I believe, last time from that.
Yes,
from that trip.
and it's predominantly French students, but they don't turn down students who are just interested in going and learning more about the culture. And that is February 6th to February 9th. And then there is the New York City trip, grade 10, which is March 22nd. And then the Great East Chorus Festival trip to Canopy Lake Park, grade 6 and 7, and that's all the way up the end of spring on May 23rd. And these are traditional trips. The teachers who run them spend a lot of their own time and efforts planning them, and we really appreciate it, and I do recommend them. It's good things for children.
Sounds good.
Can I make a motion for all of them together in one fell swoop?
Absolutely.
Excellent. I'd like to make a motion for the field trips. Dates are 12/11/13, 12/13/13, 2/6 through 2/9/14, 3/22/14, and 5/23/14.
We have a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
It is unanimous.
Thank you. They'll be very happy. They can recruit their children and go on with things. I did have just one announcement for the school committee. It didn't come to me officially until just before the meeting, so it wasn't on the agenda. But when we met with the Massachusetts School Building Authority, instead of having a site review, they just gave us some advice. Should we be chosen, we should be getting ready. And one of their getting ready suggestions was that we invite the Office of Financing, Office of Campaign and Finance, Political Finance, that's it, to come and do a workshop in Carver. And so I did get a confirmation. They will be coming on November 20th at 4 o'clock, and we'll have it in the gym at the Governor John Building, which we don't make this widely known to people, and everyone's invited, not just school committee and school people. I will send it out to the town, but I wanted to tell the school committee first. And I did receive permission from John Tate, the young man who's going to do our workshop, that we can have cable TV videotape it. And so then it can be available to people on cable TV. So I did want to make that announcement. So I think it'll be good for us to find out, what's good and what's not so good and what we should and shouldn't do. So excellent. And I will contact Town Hall and all the departments and the Board of Selectmen and let them know that they are also invited, and the general public. So
Great. So
That's
just a reminder to the public, again, that was November 20th at 4 p.m. over at Governor John Carver's gym.
babysitting is provided.
And babysitting will be provided.
Thanks.
Which gym is that in? The small gym or the
The
big
small gym with the,
Seats.
the Y program uses the cafeteria and the other gym, so, we're going to use that one.
Yeah,
So.
good.
Sounds good.
Thank you.
Thank you, Liz. With that, I'll open it up to the committee for any reports this evening. Comments?
I got no reports.
It's quiet.
Yeah.
I do, I guess it's been since the open house, since our last meeting. I want to commend the staff and their efforts. I know at the elementary level where I was at, it was fun to do a little mapping around and getting my stamps around the building. So again, I want to commend all the staff and the great work that they did there, and then all the efforts that will be coming up this month with the various events, whether it's at the high school or in the haunted halls, I think, and at the elementary school with their candy event and all that. There's a lot of great work that's done after school hours. I want to commend both parents, teachers, and the staff for the great work they do. And I think we're off to a good school year so far, and I'm excited to see where we're going to be come the end of the year.
Parent conferences
Yes.
tomorrow night at the middle high school. Wednesday night, I'm sorry. Wednesday night at the middle high school and Thursday night at the Carver Elementary School.
Yes, so parents don't forget. Sounds good. With that, I will accept a motion to adjourn.
I'd like to make a motion to adjourn.
We have a motion
Second.
and a second. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye, it is unanimous.
Thank you.